I have been voter service chair of the League of Women Voters, and that's my job was voter registration. I'm not the chair now, but that was my main job. And I will tell you that last year, the League registered, all good registrations, over 1,000 people.
Woo!
Mostly millennials and low, we went to their schools, but you won't be able to get to the schools. But just be aware that you need to be out there, and it has to be done correctly. If you don't have the information, you can never get in touch with anyone again. And it'll be thrown out by the supervisor's office. So you have to have everything correct. So before I start, I want to check to make sure everybody here is registered to vote. If
Yes.
not, up to date, signature, everything. How many people here vote by mail?
I've never done that.
This is the way to go. It comes to your house, you get your ballot 30 to 35 days before. You look at it, you can look up all your candidates, you fill it out, you send it back. And much easier. I'll take them with me today. 28% of the ballots in 2016 were vote by mail. And it kind of splits up almost between Republicans and Dems, equally.
Were those, a lot of people are very worried about vote by mail, that's a question you get. Were those votes counted?
Yes,
right?
and here's how you even know it. Now, they're even better now. They're not called absentee ballots anymore. They're called vote by mail.
So there is no more absentee ballot.
That is correct. It never says there's no absentee ballot on them. This is the brand new form put out by the supervisor of elections. Nowhere on here does it say absentee. That doesn't exist anymore. It was changed last year, as a matter of fact, by the government. This was just changed as well. So there's totally new forms that they want, that the supervisor of election wants you to use. So here's what happens with these. You send these in. Now, if your signature doesn't match, guess what? They have to notify you so you can go down to what they call cure the signature. So you can fix it, because sometimes they would throw it out. These are not provisional. If you decide at the last minute you don't want to send it in, you don't even have to bring the ballot with you. You just go to your polling place and you can fill out a ballot. I will tell you, these are the first counted. You know that when the polls close, you see those numbers that go across the bottom? That's what they are. Years ago, they were not. They were almost considered background race was closed. Now, these are the first ballots.
In the state of Florida or across?
In the state of Florida.
Okay.
In the state of Florida. And we're only dealing with the state of Florida today. So these are the first counted. There are some states that do only
Yes.
vote by mail. That's it. Oregon, vote by mail.
They're smart.
100%. So first counted, and you can go online and you can see whether or not they got your ballot. So you go to the SOE site, put your name in, and right there will tell you whether your ballot is in there.
How
How
want us
easy.
to hold our questions till the end? Or? So at what point are we introducing the vote by ballot, or is there
A vote by mail?
We're talking about voter registration, right?
We're going to talk about
That's
vote.
something in and of itself.
Yes, what I wanted to do is make sure everybody here,
Oh, we understand.
okay.
Because I think when I've been doing stuff house to house, we've had those.
These are a little bit different, and the rules are a little bit different because there was some concern last year about people picking up ballots. that we
These have
should-
just come out.
These are brand new.
No, I'm saying, there was a vote by mail
So
last.
before you leave,
Great.
I would like everyone here to vote by mail.
And Harriet, I just want to, one more housekeeping thing. We're all trying very hard to hear Harriet, and we're trying very hard to hear whoever's asking a question. So if there is talking in the room, it's a small room, it's hard to hear her, or it's hard to hear the person ask the question. So I'm just going to ask as a point of courtesy, if we can just hold our conversation, unless it's a question, or something you want to talk about, Harriet, afterwards. But just please hold your conversation is all I would say. All right, I'm done.
Okay.
question about the vote by mail. There is no privacy.
There's no privacy on anything. There's no privacy on this either.
But if you vote by mail, anybody can find out. I mean, if you mail it.
This is ballot request.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's a ballot request.
Okay.
That's a ballot
It's,
request.
I'm sorry.
So the ballot is,
That's a request form.
Okay.
So if you vote by mail, does that information find its way back to your local election spot so that your record of voting is constant?
The end,
Does that make sense?
yes.
Yes.
Yes. And the answer is yes, it does. The interesting thing is, if you vote by mail and you vote early by mail, you will stop getting phone calls from people.
Yes.
Because they know you voted already, so they're not going to bother you.
so that's a very attractive feature.
Yes, it's a very attractive
You
feature.
say you want us to vote by mail. What are we going to vote on?
Where are you going to vote?
What's the issue that we're voting on?
2018, you have a lot of issues that you're going to
There's no
vote.
ballot yet.
No, there is no ballot, but you have to sign up. When you,
Now I understand what
you have to sign up to vote by mail.
Okay.
So the time to do it would be now, and you would be good from 2018 to 2020. So this is good for 2 general election cycles.
This assumes that you've already registered though, right? It's asking for a registration
Yes,
number.
absolutely. You could do both at the same time. So when you go out and register people, they fill out this form and they fill out this form, and you clip them together when you bring them to the supervisor of elections office. This way, they don't go, oh, that person's not registered, and throw that away. So they go together.
What happens if I register to vote by mail and then I move?
Then you call up the supervisor of election and you tell her you moved.
Or
You call the office.
Or you can do it
Or
online.
you can do it online now.
Yeah.
You can do it right online.
And they send you a card out right away. That's what happens.
But you said that if we can go down the day of the voting and vote even if we're signed up for this, correct?
That is correct.
She said that too.
I have an annoying idea. The idea is to let you finish your training and then have
Okay.
questions after the training.
I agree, otherwise we might get off track.
So what I'm going to do is hand out a voter registration form to everyone, and we're going to go through this. So-
Awesome.
Yeah, okay.
You don't want us to mark on it, right?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with it, because we're going to probably throw them out.
Otherwise, it's gonna be-
Don't tell the supervisor.
There's one question. Well, we're handing them out. Why not ask the question?
You're lucky.
My question is, in these days, is it safer to vote by mail than to vote online?
Absolutely. Well, you can vote online.
Oh, I thought you said.
You can register on Oregon, you vote online. Here, we vote, you have to go to the polls, or you can vote by mail.
I have a question about the precincts, because we have a precinct where we live. And a lot of people say they're not voting by mail because they want to make sure we still have a precinct where we live. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You'll still have a precinct.
Well, even if we, because we'll have less people coming to the precinct, doesn't matter, they'll still have it.
Okay, so does everyone, let's start with your organization,
Okay.
which is going to be what we call a third-party voting registration organization. So you have to follow the rules of a third party. So if you do not have a third-party number, you cannot go out, say to Walmart, where they'll throw you out anyway, or any place that you have arranged to go without having the number, because that identifies you with the state that you have a certain number that you are allowed to do this.
So you can't do this in a volunteer capacity?
Not just walk out, you could do this, you could do your mother, you could do your family, but you cannot stand in front, walk out here and try to register voters unless, people you do not know, unless you have a specific number.
And what we have
And you're
done-
indemnified by the state, and you indemnify
Right,
them.
we have made that application, we expect to have that shortly. So our thinking was, let's get the application in, let's get everybody trained, and as we'll describe later, we want to have a group of, more than just this group, we'll do it more than once, so that once we have our number and you all are trained, then we can help you to identify locations that need voter registration work. We'll work in tandem with the league, for instance. We can do shifts with the league. We can find places through our organization where maybe it's being the area is being underserved, or the Democratic Party or the league can't get there. And then we can ask you to get there, and in doing that, we will make sure that you have the number for Palm Beach Indivisibles so that you'll be able to start with that very basic building block of what you need to do.
So if you work with the league, you would use the league's number, and I'm sure the league could use some volunteers. And if you worked for any of the parties, you would use their numbers. But you wouldn't be using the individual. Depending on who is running the registration drive for that time, that's the number that you would use.
So like the Democratic Party is considered a third party?
Yes, the Republican Party is considered a third party. The league is considered a third party. Right.
And if anyone would like to register voters immediately, there's an opportunity this Tuesday with the League of Women Voters. And if you're interested, see me afterwards.
That can you do more than
Yes.
one? Okay. You just have to be careful.
Where is that?
You just have, generally speaking, one person is going to take care of the paperwork. I'll go through that.
And we'll put that information up on the Palm Beach Indivisibles website as well, so that we're going to try to get everybody to know anytime they can do, when there are opportunities to do it, we're going to put that out through our Facebook pages so that you will know.
Okay, let me just start to go through this, and then
Yeah.
we can pick that up.
Yeah.
Precinct number, is that a number?
No. Precinct number is not a number for registering voters. It is a specific,
I'm working with registered voters.
right, that's totally different.
And do you know if
It's a
the
3P number,
pages?
huh?
Do you have to number the pages?
No,
Just the third party number goes on.
right.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start out. Everybody has a registration form? Let's start from the beginning. It says new registration. Well, who's allowed to vote in Florida? That's the first thing. You must be a citizen. You must be a resident of Florida. Everybody knows that, right? You can't be a snowbird who votes in Connecticut and come here and say, I want to vote, unless this is your domicile.
And how is that defined? How would you know that?
Well, if they have a Florida driver's license, generally speaking, they are a resident of Florida.
Yeah.
But you do not have to have a Florida. If you are a student and you live on campus, you could have a driver's license from out of state, but this is your home, and that's where you'll be registered to vote. So new registration, you have to be 18 years old. Right? You have to live here, you have to be a citizen. Right?
And not a felon.
And, well, I'm coming to that. And I have, we'll go to that. So are you a citizen, yes or no? If they're not a citizen, as you ask them, don't even bother to try to fill out. And you will find a lot of people who are not citizens. And here's the next one. I affirm that I am not a convicted felon. If you have a felony in the state of Florida and you have not gotten your rights back, as 1.6 million people in the state of Florida have not gotten their rights back, you may not be able to vote, ever. So for people who have not filled out this petition, I would like to take some with me today, if you have not filled it out, to put this on the ballot for 2018. So I will pass out those petitions after. It's unconscionable.
Can you bring it up again, because I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
At the end, that question.
Okay, so the next one is I affirm that I have I'm not mentally incapacitated. So the court has not said that you're mentally incapacitated. So you have to check those that I affirm. Date of birth. You have have the date of birth. Yes.
At the very top it says, this is new registration, that's obvious, record update, so
Okay, so if it's a new registration, that's somebody who just moved to Florida or has just never been registered in this state before. That's a new registration. If they have changed their address, they check off record update and then circle what it is you are changing. And the supervisor of election loves you when they know what the change is. So address, party affiliation, or name. If you got married, or you got divorced, or you just want to change your name, circle it. And then the other one is request to replace your voter ID card. You know that little thing you get in the mail that no one uses and can't find? That tells you where your polling place is and what your precinct is. But you don't need to take that to go to vote, so.
What does signature mean up there?
That
Affiliation name signature.
when you get older, or you broke an arm, or something happened, I've had someone who had Parkinson's disease, and she had to put an X, because she could no longer write her name. There's nothing wrong with her, she just, and as you get older, your signature changes. So if you think your signature is going to be different from your driver's license or or what's on record, you need to change your signature and update it. And I find a lot of younger people change their signatures because some of them don't even have a signature. And then, I kid you not. And then they start to change their signature as they get out of high school, they start to work, and they realize, oh, I don't have a real signature. So they need to, your signature must match. So that's when you go to vote, what they look at is signature and your ID. You need a picture ID, but what they look back on is your signature.
signature on your ID or?
Signature that's on file. So if you have a signature here, you must have a signature.
Oh, I just don't remember.
You don't remember.
So I don't.
You have a signature on file. On the new, I'll get into the online voting, online registration after this.
You can be challenged at the polls if the signature, when you go in, you have to sign when you come in. If your signature is substantially different from
That's
what's
your
on the
signature,
record,
yeah.
then you can be challenged, then you want to avoid that.
The problem with voting by mail is if your signature doesn't match, they may toss that you
No, they do not. If you listen to what I just said, they will notify you so you can keep what they call PR your signature.
Can't just throw you out.
They can't throw you out anymore. That changed. Not anymore. That was changed last year. I trust them. I trust the supervisor of elections office. She is the most ethical, knowledgeable person you can find.
You can check your status as a valid online, see if they accepted it.
Okay, so moving on.
Okay, driver's license number. If you do not have a driver's license number, or they may not have it with them, the last four numbers of your social security. And you see at the side here, it says, I have none of these numbers. It doesn't mean you don't have them with you. It means you do not have the numbers. It is very unusual in this day and age for someone not to have a social security number. They get them when they're born.
So if a young person, like I don't know that my daughter would know her social security
don't.
number. You know, but she might have it like stored in her phone somewhere, maybe, you know, but definitely not in her mind. And so what do you do?
What do you do? She should have it in her phone, the last four in their phone. I run across a lot of 17 and 18-year-olds, and I say, where's your social security number, last four? I don't have it. I tell them to call their mother.
I would tell her to call her father.
And they do, and they get it, and they fill it in. It's just hilarious. They should not, and I found somebody carrying a picture of a card. I said, don't do that.
Yeah, that's.
Don't do that. The last four, let them put it in the notes or put it in their telephone numbers.
But
What
do
did
you
you mean
offer?
by on your phone? What did you mean by that?
On their phone.
Right.
Notes or reminders.
In the notes section.
On the notes section or on the telephone card, just put the number.
But do you often run into people you're on a roll with them, they're starting to fill it out, and you hit them, this is a block?
I asked them right up front now, because I did. And then they would call me later, or I tried to call them later, we would text.
That doesn't.
Some of them, no, it doesn't work. So right up front, if they don't have the numbers, don't bother. So I do not have any of these numbers, doesn't mean that they don't have it with them. I mean, they literally don't. If they were born on a farm and worked on a farm years ago, they would not have those numbers. Or a Florida ID. So you could have a driver's license or a Florida ID.
And if they check off, I have none of these numbers, can they continue?
No,
They have to stop.
you do not, they don't have those. Ask them before, do you have these numbers? Do you have a driver's license? Do you have an ID? Do you have the last four of your social? If they don't have them, that doesn't mean you don't have them. That means, when I say I have none of these numbers, it doesn't mean you don't have them with you.
It means they were never
It means
issued.
you literally do
Yeah.
not have any.
Yeah.
They have never been issued.
Yeah.
No one knows you exist.
It can't be registered.
Don't register them, because the only thing that's going to happen, I only had one person in the 3 years that really did not have her numbers. I brought this in, and the supervisor of elections office had to notify them. So that's how that works.
They notify them and what? I mean, is there a remedy? If you
There's a remedy if they can figure out that she really is a citizen. But I will tell you what happens to most of those letters, they go in the garbage.
Yeah,
And nobody, they don't get an answer back, so don't even bother.
okay.
Okay, last name, printed, so you can read it. You can fill out this entire form for them. And if you can't read it, neither can the supervisor of elections. First name, printed, legible. Middle name if they use it. Address where they live, not a P.O. box. Apartment, it's really important to get an apartment. There might be 100 people living in that address. City, county, that's not country. I can't tell you how many people put down USA. It's PB, Palm Beach, and their zip code. If they have a mailing address that's different, put that in. Because they might.
Right. So if some people, I mean, everybody, well, not everybody, a lot of people have middle names, but they don't put it on their driver's
Then
license.
don't use it. I always tell them if they use it. It's up to them. They can put it in or not.
I do.
You put yours in. But some people don't, or they'll just put the initial in
Yeah. But it has to be consistent with what's on your.
with what's on the driver's license or their ID. It should absolutely be consistent. Gender, male or female. Oh, and if you're changing your name, the former name. What was your name before? So the supervisor had an idea for her records. And if you're changing your address, what was at least the county or the state you're coming from? It makes it much easier for her to change this. And then, if it's from a different state, she will notify that state to take it off, to take them off the rolls, and we'll put them on ours. We do not belong to something called ERIC, which is an electronic registry information. The Florida government has decided not to join that last year. We were trying to, and this would update our rolls so we know where people are coming from and going to, which would be nice.
What if they don't know the address where they were last registered?
If they know the state or anything, it would be nice if they put it in. And I said former name, gender, male or female. If you don't put anything, you get a yes, unknown. That's what will come out on your card. State or country of birth, you can put that in or not. It's really not. See where it says telephone number optional?
Don't do it.
Absolutely, you want their phone number.
Their cell number if possible.
Yes, thank you. You want that phone number. Say it's not optional, because if there's any error on here, they would prefer to call you as opposed to sending you a letter.
And you mean that the supervisor's
Yes.
office will be the caller?
And if you think ahead, you want to get people out to vote. How are you going to contact them? You're going to send them a letter? You might text them. You might ring.
So I have a question about the gender, and I understand the state we live in and the country we live in. If a person doesn't identify,
It comes as a you.
and that is considered a valid, okay, fine, all right.
I had someone who was, he said he was in the middle of changing. So
Okay,
I said, okay. He said, I prefer not to answer.
so it is recognized.
So they
Despite
can
what's
leave that
going
blank.
on.
Yeah.
They can leave that.
So,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, so you don't fill it out, or you put something else?
No, you put nothing.
Put nothing, right, okay.
You put nothing.
Can I just ask a question? When you talk about how will you be called to vote? Who would be calling?
The parties.
Whoever registered.
They'll be able
you
to see
vote.
these, they'll take them from public
Absolutely.
records? That's what I'm trying to.
There's a whole record, it's called a van, all the parties have them. They buy
This
the
goes into van.
information.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Your social security does not go into that van, so those private things do not, but your name, address, telephone number go in. And as part of the league, we keep track, we have kept track, and we texted a whole batch of people before the last election. We texted them 3 times to try to get them out to vote. And I'm happy to say a lot of them did.
Wow.
Yeah,
Where does the money go when somebody buys these lists
goes to the government, the state.
of the state?
The state gets the money, because the state updates the list.
Okay.
So you have a record of everyone that you have registered? If you texted them to vote, that means you have a record
Yeah.
of the
You
people
could.
you have registered, and then you can check the voting records to see if they voted?
Well, if you have access to a
To the-
van,
You
you
have to get
can.
access to the van.
What's a van, what's a?
A van is a
voter-
it's a
A
voter
voter what?
list.
It's a voter application list.
Oh.
And that's what the parties work with.
Oh, okay, okay, I just didn't know.
So the League of Women Voters does not keep a copy of
We
this.
do not keep a
No, I
copy
know,
of this.
but they-
But we write down the name, address, and their telephone number.
Oh, you do? So in other words, when you register somebody, you're keeping your own sidetrack records too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, what we're hearing is it goes into a public record in a database that can be accessed.
They buy certain.
If you buy it,
If you buy it for-
you have to
for
purchase
press.
it.
Okay.
It just, typically local parties are keeping track of that information as well,
Mhm.
so that they, within a precinct, down to the precinct level, they know who's voted and who they can still get out, so.
I did that as part of a grant that I had gotten from the National League. So
Listen, all this information went to the President's Commission. It's not exactly secret stuff.
none of it has ever been secret.
Right.
Your social security number is secret, and that did not go to
Everything
the
else is
president
open.
and should not.
Is anything secret anymore?
Okay,
Okay, let's
so
keep going.
then I tried to get an email as well,
Right.
because they'll get their ballots, or they'll be emailed by the Supervisor of Elections Office. Party affiliation. Here's where we go. Florida Democratic Party, Republican Party, no affiliation, minor party. In a minor party, you have to put in what the minor party is. So, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? And I will tell you that it's split. You have mostly Democrats in Palm Beach County. You have less Republicans. You have a whole lot of what we call NPAs, no party affiliation, which I try to talk people out of signing up. And the reason I do that is because they lose their voice, especially in a primary. They have no choice about who is going to be in that election, that general election. And then they think there's a primary, and because there's a primary, they don't have to go to vote because they don't have a party, but there are tons of other things on that ballot that are important. Like the supervisor of election would be on the ballot, the property appraiser, the sheriff would be on those ballots, all the judges are on those ballots, and propositions and questions will be on that ballot. And they do not go to vote because they think they don't have a party. So make them, or try to make them take a choice. Because Florida is a two-party system. It's closed primaries.
The open primary that's being pushed.
It's not here. It won't be here for 2018.
I know, but will that, is that concept include letting those people vote?
Well, then you have to think about who registers on that day. Can you register? Some states let you register to vote as you walk in the door. to vote. So it depends on how the open primary is set up. There are different ways. Different states have different systems.
Is there a list of recognized minor parties?
Yes, there is. There are
Someone in Puerto Rico, they can't vote, correct? But if they move here, they can.
no, they vote in Puerto Rico.
Not for the federal election.
Not for federal, but if they move here, they can vote for all elections. They have to just change their address and they're U.S. citizens.
So they're able to vote for more things if they.
Yes, they're living here, they can vote for everyone you vote for.
Resident
Have to
Florida.
declare
What are the
themselves.
residency requirements do we need to know that?
Residency requirements.
An address.
Like if
You
I.
have to live here.
No,
So-
you have to have the intent, it's an intent. If you have the intent to be a resident of Florida, you are a resident of Florida.
Okay, but they're gonna need.
And you have to have an address.
You have to have an address and a driver's license.
Okay, you're still gonna
Or
need
Florida
that, some
ID.
kind of identification that says you're a Florida resident.
Yes.
Like an FPL bill or something like that.
I had
Does
some,
that work?
well, I'm not so sure that would be so good.
I thought you,
You need to
You
have
had
a
to
driver's
have one of these
license or an ID.
When you go to register as a resident, to get your driver's license, for example, of
Right.
Florida, you have to have something like that.
okay,
yes.
But
right.
they're waiving a lot of the requirements for people that are moving here because.
Sir, do you want to sit down with a seat?
No, I'm comfortable, I have a back, I have to stand.
If they have the last four numbers of their social security and they say they're a resident of Florida, we have to register them.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
So so do Puerto Ricans have social security numbers?
Yes.
Okay, I understand. So if they are living here, they have, but they don't have a driver's license.
Well, they might.
Or they don't drive.
They haven't gotten it yet.
They don't need
They
it.
might have gotten it.
So if they have the
If they have the
last-
last four numbers of their social security and an address,
Okay. That's perfect.
they can register to vote.
Okay.
And signature here. They need to sign the paper.
Excuse me, this race, is
Yeah.
that constitutional?
What?
The race, ethnicity question?
You do not have to answer
Oh,
that
okay,
question.
that's all right.
It is not required. The only thing is, if you do answer it and the supervisor finds that, say, there are a lot of Hispanic or Creole people in one area, she might, at the polls, put someone who speaks Creole.
They do,
Spanish,
if
yeah.
they're able, if they're right.
But you do not have to answer that question. Legally, you only have to answer 1 through 7 and sign your name and date.
Oh, that's why they're marked with the
That's
dark.
why they have the dark.
Okay.
Is that what we want them to do? No. We want them to fill out the entire form. We want the information.
What does it mean
Right.
to say you need assistance with voting?
That means you have trouble writing your name, or you have trouble, physically have trouble. And you need somebody who's going to come in with you and help you with the ballot. You may not be able to, you know what a ballot looks
Somebody
like?
might be blind.
They may be blind, they may not be able to connect the arrows.
And do they bring their own person to help?
Yes.
Or is that a?
They usually bring their own.
Okay.
And on the bottom here too, I'm interested in becoming a poll worker. You must make sure these are signed and dated with the correct date. Because when you, and I'm going to tell you, don't do this alone. I always think you need at least 2 people. One person helps fill out the form, the other one checks it before they ever walk away from you. I cannot tell you how many blank spaces. You think you have it all, and then you turn around, and their name is not there. Trust me, I've called people, at least a telephone number. I said, hey, you just registered to vote, but I don't know your name. No name. Or only the last name and not the first name, or vice versa. Or it's just amazing what's left out. The birth date, because they didn't see, because it's not an easy form. It looks easy, it's not an easy form to fill out. So always have someone else check your work before you ever let them walk away. Otherwise, you'll be running after them. Now, See the back of this? On the back of this is where your 3P, your voter number goes.
Down there.
Right. So, whatever your 3P number is going to be, when you turn this over, see this corner here? You are going to put in that 3P number and the date. And that date must be the same date as this was filled out. There's no spot. You just need to make a spot.
Is it a long number typically?
No.
What's it called?
Well, the league is what, 3P12, 1P39. The Dems are 3P11-89.
Okay, so
There's, I'll pass this around so you can see.
Third-party organization. with
Right,
registration.
3P, third party, the date, so yours will probably be, when did you apply for this? That's the month you applied, and you're the number of the, it's the number of the organization that applied. So if you were the 89th organization, or the 90th, or the 129th that applied, that would be your number. I'll pass this around so you can just see the
So,
bottom.
I'm sorry, what's the date?
The date is the exact date that's on here, on that application.
Okay, so it's
Do-
the date of the voter registration. It's not the date of.
It is the date of the voter registration.
Think of it as sort of like, in my mind, the date you affixed the seal. In other words, you're saying, we are really, we have a 3P number, and we're saying that as of this date, and that's the same date. you
Right, so the other thing about this is, I would not have, if I have like 5 people doing voter registration, I'd have one person to sit at my table, the rest- and then check these, and one person takes care of the paperwork and fills this in. She'll go through it, look at it, because that way you know you'll have accuracy. One person takes this to the supervisor of elections office.
You have to take it, and you can't mail it?
No.
You take them.
And they have to be turned in the same day.
They have to be turned in within 10 days, or else you will get large, you could be charged up to $1,000 a day.
So let me ask you, when you guys do this, for instance, then do you collect a
I
bunch of
collect
them, and then
everybody.
one person in your
Yes.
organization says, I'll be responsible, somebody you
The
trust
person who's
will
been
take
there.
them and takes them?
Generally, it's a,
Typically, you don't wait 10
typically,
days
when you
either.
set up, say, okay, we're gonna set up a voter registration, and we have permission to say to be in front of Bodegon. You know what Bodegon is?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's fine. It doesn't matter.
Okay, or say you have permission to be in front of the library. Okay, so you set up a table in front of the library and you have 5 people there. One person will be at the table, and the other ones is people are walking into the library and say, oh, would you like to register to vote? Bring them back to the table and fill out the form. The person sitting at the table will look at this, and she will be the one, or whoever you decide is the one, takes every single piece of paper you have that day. She will check them when she gets home, she will, or there, and put that number and date on it. She will also take this to the supervisor of elections office.
Do you have
All
to
of
physically
them.
walk upstairs? How do you know that you've given it to the right person, or?
You walk into the office, no, it's easy. You walk into the office, you bring them with you, you say, I have voter registration forms, and you will also may have some of the vote by mail forms.
Are there more than one, do they have satellite offices?
Yes, lots of them.
Okay.
Let's see.
All right, well,
So-
we'll figure that out too.
Yes.
We can put
So-
that on the website.
Right, I'm learning with you guys. Yeah.
It is on the web, it's on the league website, you can look these up. So, where is she? Susan Brooker, she has a West Palm office, a South County office, in Delray, a Northeast Palm Beach Gardens office, and a Glades office.
Okay,
Four
easy.
offices.
Great.
Are you permitted, in Florida, are you permitted to go into a neighborhood and go door to door and register voters?
If you're doing it as part of a third-party
Canvas?
canvas,
Does that have to be pre-registered with some organization or something? Okay.
no, you have, but you cannot just, if it was me, and I'm gonna register voters, I said, okay, I think I'll use this neighborhood, you cannot do that. You are not authorized, but if you do it as part of a canvassing, yes, you are absolutely allowed.
Harriet, on that point, I wonder if the I want to say indivisible, but individual municipalities can have a requirement that you notify them that you're going to be canvassing, or is that something that they can't do? Because I know there's certain rules about what the municipalities can and cannot require you to do if you're going to go door to door.
I don't know.
The only
Okay.
trouble I've ever had is with gated communities.
Well, you can't get in.
You can't get in, I'm sure. They're going to be like, nope.
You cannot get, so you're not going to pick a gated community.
I've been sent to them.
I live in a gated community, and you are not allowed to do that in my community.
Yeah, I'll research
I
that.
think you said this already, but I have grandkids in their 20s who are not registered voters.
You can register
I
them
can
to
register
vote.
them and I don't need that number?
No, you do not.
I just
If it's
have
your
to expand
family,
it.
if it's your family, you're not considered a third party, you're allowed to do
But
it.
the grandchildren have to sign this.
Oh, yeah, they have to sign.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you can register
I
them.
mean, they don't have the same last name as me, so, but I could go in there.
And they could do that online now. If they have a driver's license,
Yeah.
they could do it online now. I'll go through online.
Okay, great.
And when you said you had to be authorized, like to go in front of the library, in other words.
You need permission from the library.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is a form you fill out. You go to the library, you go to the information desk and ask them for the form. And you need permission from most of the county offices. You cannot go to courthouses, you cannot stand in front
You're
of
going to be
those.
selecting sites for somewhere.
Yes, we'll figure that part out. And
Joe-
part because it sounds like one of the things we have to have control over, or a system for, let's call it, is gathering those registrations so that they get to the destination in a proper and safe way. So
Yes.
I think we're going to have to be careful that if we're going to ask you to do anything, we're going to take on that responsibility.
These are
of
important
making sure
pieces
that
of
we get
paper.
those things where they need to go.
You need to treat
If we're gonna have a
them as
drive,
if
let's
they're
say, in a
important.
day, we should arrange to collect all those forms
If
at
you
the
have-
end of that day,
Right.
so we can submit.
So one person looks them over and then puts the number on and then submits them.
That's what the Democratic Party.
Yes, so what I have here, when you go into the supervisor of elections office, you will fill out a form they will give you. So you put your ID number, your contact, your telephone number, and your contact email. I'll pass this around. This was mine, so I have a few copies, just so you can see. Yes. And you put out how many you filled in, and you sign your name and the location, and they will, this is what you fill out for them. They will give you a copy of it. You hold on to the copy, so you know what you've done. Wow.
If you have an error, somebody messes up a form, do the forms have to go somewhere?
Now, if somebody messes up, what do you mean by messes up?
I mean,
If you have an incomplete
made
form.
a mistake with the numbers, or it wasn't
Just cross it
legible.
out and just write it on top and have them initials.
What happens if, I think your question is, let's say you get back, you're looking at everything, and you're like, look, this has a flaw, this form, I can't get in touch with this person, I can't fix it. What do you do? What's your
Well, you started one, you
responsibility?
didn't finish it or something.
Yeah, there's a flaw in the form that
If they
cannot be
signed
rectified.
it, that's why I said you must be very careful. The supervisor will not like you to bring in forms that are not complete.
But you
So
said,
if they signed it, that's a legal form as far as I'm concerned. You have to turn it.
Okay.
But I think the question is, can you call them if you have their cell phone?
If they're missing
You forgot
something,
to fill
yes, if they forgot to fill something in, yes, I will call them. But as far as I'm concerned, once they sign and walk away, I think you're legally responsible to bring that form.
That's why
They're not
it's
going,
really
that's why
important
it's
to
so
check the
important
form.
to make sure you have everything on there.
Is it still true that you have to go through a training in order to do this?
Well, if you're part of the league, you have to take a test.
Okay, is it still true that the state insists that you have some kind of training?
I don't know. I would just think it would be foolish to go out there and not know how to do it.
I haven't heard
The
that.
Democratic Party had us sign something that said we were trained. At one point, the state said you had to have this training.
I'm not sure.
No.
I
Well,
haven't
didn't
heard
they
that.
try
It
to
sounds like for
limit
liability
third-party?
purposes.
Yes, they did. A few years ago, they tried to stop third-party voter
Right.
registration, and the League of Women Voters sued them
Right on.
and won.
Woo!
That's very good.
I think the way they control that, the Democratic Party We were trained last year for the elections to register.
Quiet, we have a question.
We have a question.
We were trained last year by the Democratic Party to register voters. It took 15, 20 minutes to train us. And then we were given a package just like this with a clipboard. And we went and they said, now just go to Delray Beach. And we walked along Delray Beach, you know.
You did this as part of the coordinated campaign. You did not, yes, but you did not do it.
Then we brought everything back, and then they said, they took it to the supervisor.
Right, and you had numbers on the back of that, that's why you didn't have to. Right, they had specific numbers.
Right.
When you get these, you don't want your number on the back of them.
So if you know, really, if you haven't done
Sorry.
this, it's, you said, do this with a buddy, right? And particularly if you've never done it before.
Do it with someone who knows how to do it
Do
to
it,
start
like you
with.
said, at a table, or do it with someone who's done it before. So
It's always nice to have
And then
someone
you
who knows how to do it with you to begin with.
Yes.
I call it OJT, on-the-job training.
And that's what we'll seek to do. My view is that we would try to
I'm gonna hand
augment
these
and
out.
supplement what
That's okay,
existing
take it.
knowledgeable groups are doing until we get on our feet and know what we're doing. And we can just, I think they'll be happy to have people like us who are willing to volunteer and show up.
Yes.
People that have never
We
done
need
this.
people out there. It's hard to get people to volunteer and spend 4 to 5 hours out registering. It's hot.
We'll have good weather in the next few months.
So I've never done this, so I came here to learn, to be trained. After this session, what happens?
Well, we're learning, like we said, with you. We'll come up with a good idea system that's an appropriate way for us as the leadership of Palm Beach Indivisibles to support you and make sure that we're doing this in an organized, responsible fashion, let's say. And then we will look for the first opportunities to partner, I think probably starting with the league, because that's really the group that's been helping us in this, to find out where they need help, and to give you that information in advance so that you can plan your week and say, no, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give this a shot, and I'm going to do it with the league, and I can ask questions that way with other people.
And that's the way you learn.
Okay.
Right,
OJT. And then when you come back, then you become the leader.
right.
That's true.
That's how I picture it.
Right.
We'll try.
And there was a comment, I think you made earlier, that you could actually fill this thing out yourself. I do not recommend you do that. Do not fill out. Particularly, we were told that when you're working for the party, because then it'd be subject to claims that you were taking, doing something improper. So I never fill out anything for them. I watch them fill it out, but I don't fill it out.
I have, sometimes when they have really bad handwriting, but I would not sign. I always have them sign in Dave. And I have them check off what their party is. I don't do that.
Yeah.
But I do fill it out sometimes, because I've worked with a lot of young people, and it's like, oh my God. I can't read a thing. I cannot read any of this. I do have a handout, so since we've gone through this form, signature and date. Everybody's comfortable with this, right? Yeah. And we have, so we're going to go through things to take with you.
Harriet,
Yes.
for the number on the back, does it have to be handwritten?
Yes. Well, no, handwritten. Yes, I sat there, like, what did I have, 95 forms the other day.
That's what I was thinking.
Because it was national vote. That's okay. And then, here, take this, here are the election dates for 2018.
Okay, great. Excellent.
And public defenders office. Take one for us back. Sure.
Can you have a petition like that and voter registration?
I do both
the same place?
separately.
Okay.
So here's what I do with these petitions. Yeah. So here's what I do.
Quiet, folks.
When I do a voter registration, I ask them, are you registered to vote? If they say yes, I ask them if they'll sign your petition. So I use both. I never do. I never miss a chance.
And how do you explain the petition?
How do I explain the
Because
petition?
I
I-
can imagine people saying, oh, they're felons, I don't want them voting. So how do
I
you-
tell them that they had a felony and they have never been able to vote in the state of Florida. And Florida is only one of 3 states that confines people that way. And it's 1.6 million people.
And I
in
think
the
it's
state of
only
Florida. It's voter
nonviolent
suppression.
felons. I think it's only, the way I understood it, it's only nonviolent felons.
So if they
that have
did
that
murder,
opportunity.
Oh,
if
okay,
it was
so that's-
sexual assault or murder, they will not be, they're not part of it.
Right, so it's not, so one of the things you could say, it's nonviolent felons who have shown that they have paid their debt to society.
It's actually returning citizens.
Okay.
Great
But
Returning
nonviolent, I always felt that when I've done the calls to action, I've stressed that because I think people could, be concerned about that concept. It makes sense to me.
That's why I was asking.
And the recidivism rate for those who cannot vote is higher than the ones that can vote. It's a form of voter suppression in Florida. It's terrible. It really is terrible.
I believe Karen, who spoke at last week's meeting, also mentioned that the process itself is burdensome. You have to actually physically travel to Tallahassee, right? There is a backlog of petitions for rights restoration that is so great that it would be something
It'll
like...
take 25 years before they even get to it.
Right.
35 years.
And then you have to appear.
And it's expensive.
Yes, because you have to travel to Tallahassee, you have to have all your paperwork. First of all, you have to have served your time, and done your parole, and paid restitution before, and then you have 5 years before you can even apply after that. And then you have to get all that paperwork, probably, absolutely an attorney. You have to travel to Tallahassee to appear. They only meet 4 times a year, the governor and the cabinet. You have to appear and tell your case. It's like begging before the king.
And it would be very old, but it's
And
not.
most of the time, you are denied.
So I always say it was nonviolent felons who paid their debt to society and have met the requirements to be able to have their rights restored. Those
I
are
had-
the 3 things I typically would say.
I had very interesting experience. I had this I was at the AFL-CIO picnic. We were doing voter registration and petitions. And I went up to this kid, I said, "Are you registered to vote?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Oh, would you sign this petition?" And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, those are my parents." And he had his sister with him. Right, and you don't know who has a felony, and they don't have a sign that says felon. So he said, he grabbed a hold of his sister, he said, "I didn't know this." He was really excited about it. He said, "Wow, those are my parents. They've never been able to vote." And he must have been, he was like 22, 23.
And how many of these petitions are needed in order to get it on the ballot? And how many do we
need
have?
780,000 petitions, and we need them soon. We need them by December 1st.
How many do we have?
We have, I think they have,
460,
I thought it was over 500. But you need it county by county, because it's not just you need them from like one spot. Each county has a certain amount
So
that
we need
needs to be collected.
720,000.
780,000 to
From
get it on
Palm
the
Beach
ballot.
County?
No, for the state of Florida.
What happens if several counties don't make it, but most of them do?
Most of them do.
So what happens if Palm Beach, we reach the number?
There's some
but-
certain areas,
Yeah, but
certain,
Collier doesn't.
some places have more than others, I'm not quite sure.
nothing good. My guess is nothing good.
But if you haven't, if you have not signed this, they're here today, please do. And if you know people who haven't signed it, take some of these.
Where did you sign it last year?
If you signed it last year, it's okay. If you signed it 2 years ago, when this started in 2014, I signed it when it originally came out, because the league has been working on this for a couple of years.
Now, what happens if you erroneously sign it multiple
So
times?
that's okay, because turn them in, if you turn them into the league, we go through them, we check to make sure that you're, first of all, that you're a registered voter, and and you haven't signed it.
And also, these forms are available in the Palm Beach Indivisibles Facebook page under the Files tab. So you can, if for
They're
some
on the
reason...
league's
Yeah,
think
I mean,
on the
they're
link, too.
easily available on the internet, but if you're looking for more of them, you can either go to their webpage, or you can go to our Facebook group. I'm assuming all of you are members of.
I think they're on the
them.
supervisor of elections as well.
Yeah,
You have Citizens United against Citizens.
the information is actually on the form, I believe. Yeah, yeah. If, I'll look at
I
it.
think you said that Florida was one of only 3 states. Typically, what do other states do?
Some states, you can vote while you're in jail.
Oh my God.
Some states, the minute you come out and you finish your parole and stuff, your rights are, or the minute you get out, your rights are automatically. The interesting thing is, this is the most restrictive that this state has been, because when Charlie Crist was in office, I think it was 150,000 he gave their rights back to. And even when Jeb was in office, he started giving rights back because it was so restrictive, and it wasn't until Scott came in that he just clamped it all down.
This may be a little too picky, but what if they were in prison in another state and moved here?
If their rights were given back to them in the other state, then they can vote here.
So more than likely, it's like, I'm thinking O.J. Simpson maybe coming here to
He
Florida.
won that.
But that was a violent,
It wasn't pink.
Wasn't convicted of that.
He's not in jail, he wasn't in jail for.
But he had.
He's not going to have his rights
But I'm
back.
just saying, somebody from another state who,
If they have their rights
finished
back,
their stuff, like say from New York, and then moved down here.
as long as their rights were returned, they can vote.
Okay.
If their rights were not returned, they may
And
not
they
vote
would,
in
they would
Florida.
probably know that.
They may or may not.
Okay.
What are the other two?
But they take a chance, because it's a felony to lie.
Okay.
So,
So then you're right back.
Right back to
it is it is a felony to lie about it, so.
Oh, we go to this one?
Yeah, okay, so we're all trained, right? We know how to do this?
Yeah, do we have to take a test?
You want me to give you a test?
If we have time at the end, let's do a
Okay.
test.
So how do you set up? SOE, supervisor of elections. My favorite place. So things to take with you. Registration form. You need, and clipboards. That's what, and I always put stuff on the back of my clipboards.
Very good.
Nonpartisan stuff, right? This
Yes.
is nonpartisan, registered to vote. And then I also have something about restoration of voting rights on the back of another one. Yeah. You deserve a second chance.
And I often take one that has it in Spanish, something like, vote here in Spanish.
Yes, if you're going to an area that has Spanish, you can register to vote in Spanish. Oh, that's what I didn't tell you.
And there are forms. are there?
Yes. So you need registration forms. You need vote by mail forms. You want to have both. And you need clips, because you want to clip them together, right? Clipboards, pens, more than you think. I take a notebook to write down any questions, and I write down my contacts. And you don't have to write down your contacts there. You can write down your contacts, whoever you got afterwards.
What do you mean contacts?
Well, you want the supervisor of elections name, number, you want public defender's number. You want to be able to, if somebody can't vote and they are a felon, to give them information. So on that yellow sheet of paper,
These, okay.
or who to contact. I also take a sample ballot with me. I take a sample registration form to put on the table, especially if you're just starting. This way, everything in yellow, highlight it and have it laminated.
And what about the ballot? How did you get that?
I went to the supervisor of elections office, I asked her for a ballot, and then I had it laminated. So you know who's on there? Zachary Taylor versus Millard Fillmore. Florence Nightingale, Andrew Carter, State Senator, Francis Scott Key, and William R. Hurst. But especially if you're going to be with a younger crowd,
They won't know.
They do not know what a ballot looks like.
Oh, that's right.
They don't know the process, so they do not know what a ballot looks like. So I take one, because they're used to bubbling all their,
Yeah.
and this is a connect.
Or even new to the state. 'Cause when I was
Yeah.
in New York, we would.
Yes, right, everything's
And I was like,
electronic,
what?
you're finished. And then I have practice things that I take with me. Also, at the supervisor of elections office, you can pick these up. It's a great resource place. So I like to show people what it would look like, right? If you have it, what else? Oh, and then what I didn't bring was the envelope. And don't just sit there. Because if you're going to sit there, no one's going to come up and talk to you, or very few people. You have to go to the people. One person stays at the desk, other people walk around. Switch off. So you need to have somebody who approaches people. So if you're going to sit in the background, you're going to have a wasted day.
I'm sorry, did you say that there are Spanish language registration forms?
And vote by mail.
And vote by mail?
Yep. And I think there might be Creole now as well. I think they're Creole too. Rules of the road, never go out alone. I told you that before. Have 2 members who know how to do this. Be prepared for heat. Bring a hat. Sun, water, sunscreen, water. And food, if you're going to be there for a while. You might want to bring a snack or a sandwich.
I'm not sure in front of me, for sure.
Filling out the form, the supervisor of election likes black ink. No purple ink. Black is better. And it is okay for you to write on the form. If there's a change, make sure that they change it.
Initial.
An initial. This is pretty much, I think, most of the stuff that I've gone through. The vote by mail, I did not hand out, did I hand these out? You did.
Oh, yeah, can I get one of those, Harriet? We're going to go through these?
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Vote by mail. Okay, notice at top, do you all have one? It says elections. It's good for 2 general election cycles.
Is that like presidential?
No, that's 2 general election cycles. So 2018 and 2020. So the last one I did was 2016. So I voted in 2016 and mine is good to 2018. But there's an out on this. So when you get your vote by mail ballot and you sign, everybody knows that they have to sign that envelope before they send it in, because people forget. There's a little box that says continue. If you check it, it will continue your vote by mail. Otherwise, you have to fill it. So I'm good until the end of 2018. 2 election cycles. Voter registration number. If you don't have that, your date of birth. Most people don't sit around with their voter registration.
Where would you have your voters? Is that on your voter registration?
That's on your card. Yes. You don't really need that though. If you put your date of birth, your last name, first name, and date of birth. I notice here, does it say optional for telephone number? It says telephone number.
So Harriet.
And email, does it say optional?
For elections, they should check off all of these boxes.
Yes, no, all you have to do is through 2 election cycles, take care of
For
it.
municipal primary.
It'll take care of it all.
Take care of it all.
Some people don't want it for all. Some people are snowbirds, and they may not want it for all because they're not going to be around. Local telephone number, email address. Voters residential address, so that's your address, your city, state, zip code. And then a mailing address. Still not a P.O. box. They won't take it. So if you're out of town, they will mail it to you out of town. If you know you're not going to be back in time. I know somebody who had it faxed to them because she was on a cruise. Elaine. She was on a 3-month cruise. on a round the clock cruise, but she voted.
Good for
She
her.
made sure she voted. And here's the other thing here. You may request a vote by mail for your spouse, parent, child, grandparent, or sibling. Yes. So if you wanted to request this for your husband, you could do so. You need to put his name on top here, and your request is by, your signature here, and you must put your driver's license number on this. And it says if available, except that the supervisor of elections says she wants that info. She
And if you don't
doesn't,
have a driver's license, it's the Florida ID number.
or ID, yes. And then the requester needs to sign it and put their driver's license and their address. So you could do it for your,
So
For your mother.
if it is the voter, do they need to put it in?
no.
You mentioned snowbirds. I've had people ask me, and I don't have the answer, can they only be registered in one state?
That is correct.
Because that did come up.
I had someone do that to me. I was at a candidate forum in Boca, and we were doing voter registration and petition signing. And he said, well, I want to vote. I said, are you a Florida resident? Well, I live here. I said, well, are you a Florida resident? Yeah. Well, I live here. I said, where's your driver's license? Not from Connecticut. I said, well, you don't live here. But I live here. I said, no, you live here part-time and you vote in Connecticut. You cannot vote in both places.
Yeah, sometimes they're not even sure because they want to be a Florida resident because they don't pay state income tax, but they have to prove that they're in the majority of their year in Florida. It gets a little.
They have to have domicile in Florida, in the state of Florida.
Now, how do they don't have to prove that to me, they just have to.
And if they have a driver's license, that pretty much proves it to you. You can register them to vote.
Oh.
Once they have the driver's license, they've already proved it.
Right.
So that's the key right there.
Can I ask on these vote by mail, two questions? So at the, I'm trying to fill it out, so I filled out my name and the information, and I'm requesting it for myself. Those
Yes.
bottom two lines, do I have to do that again?
No,
See, I've
you didn't
got
have to put that.
Oh,
You didn't have to put that.
but do I have to fill these two bottom lines out too?
No. No, that's your thing.
If I was requesting for another person,
Someone else.
okay. And then what did you register?
That also goes to the supervisor of elections
I'll
office.
just put a stamp on it and stamp
Yep. Or you bring it in. Or you bring it in. Here's the other thing I want to tell you. We have a new register to vote online in the state of, that what you're going to ask me? Okay. So to register to vote online in the state of Florida, you just go online. You could go on Supervisor's Election or Florida Department of Elections, and there's this form is online, and you fill it out online. Here's the caveat. You must have a Florida ID or a Florida driver's license on the record, because that is your signature. You also must give them the last four numbers of your social security number, as well as the driver's license, which is against Florida law, because both are supposed to be the same. All registration requests are supposed to have the same requirements, which they do not. So that's going to be enforced. Something's going to happen.
So I was talking with somebody the other day who is currently 17.
They
She
can
has
register.
filled out paperwork to be able to vote when she does turn 18. Does she have to do anything further?
No.
No.
When she turns 18, Supervisor of Elections Office will send her a card. And she can go online to see.
And if she has not picked a party yet, can she go online?
She can, with the new vote online, she can change her party online. If she has a Florida driver's license or Florida ID. You can do it all online. and just hit enter, and it takes it.
I realize this is only as of October 1st, but will the league or Palm Beach Indivisible, if you go out to have the registration booth set up, if you have a computer with a Wi-Fi connection, do people register online
Yes.
there?
They can, but there is no place for you as a third party yet to show that it was a third party registration.
But if they're
Minute
doing
you
it
hit
themselves
enter,
online.
right, but there's no way for you to keep track.
Yeah, there's no way to keep track. But again, I'm thinking of an 18, 19, 20-year-old.
You can
who would
do
rather
it.
do it themselves online at the library.
Yes.
Where, so
But
you
if
could
you-
set
yes,
up
you
a
could set
Wi-Fi
up-
connected laptop at a voter registration booth.
Can you do it on your phone?
Probably, it'd be hard to fill out, but you can do it on an iPad.
Sorry.
You can do it on an iPad.
So we can do that, we don't have to have that third party number then.
I know, but there's some question about that. This is what's up for question. The third-party number, the fact that you need more information, which is actually illegal. You should not have to have both the last four of your social plus your driver's license. So there's some questions about that right now. So we'll see what happens with that.
Why is there a push for voting by mail?
Because more people, when you get a ballot in the mail, chances are more people will vote. And it's proven that it increases voter turnout. Yes, especially among older people. And teachers, nurses, doctors, people who don't have time to go to the polls, something happens, there's a very, very, very high turnout. I think it's over 90% of the people who get those ballots mailed in.
You don't have to wait online.
You don't have to wait online. You don't have to go to early voting. And you have time. What's nice is you have time to look up the issues and the people, because you get your ballot at least 30 days before. You can sit with that and you can go through it all. You don't have to quickly make up your mind. And there are sites that you can go on and check out.
What they voted for.
Vote411.org. Well, last year we had a vote411.org, which you could go on and you could put your address in. And when you did that, it brought up your ballot, not somebody else's, but exactly who would be on your ballot. And you could compare the 2 or 3 candidates that were running. You want to be able to do that. You want to know what the issues are. A vote yes means this, a vote no means this.
So how far in advance do they have to be mailed back to the supervisor of elections?
Well, you can bring it in that day.
You can't, because what I'm thinking of is people who voted early, where then something happens and you say,
Right.
oh man, I wish I could change my vote.
Well, you can wait.
You can wait till the very last day.
Or you never even have to send it in, you can just go to
Right, but
your
if
precinct.
you have it all printed out and you don't want to wait in line, you could go hand it in at your precinct and that will
Well,
count.
no, you have to go to supervisor's office.
Okay. But
And
that
they'll
would,
stay with you. Yes, that would count. So you can wait till the last day.
I just want to verify, this vote by mail you can do now online, this application?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the signature will just be again?
The signature is your driver's license. If you do not have a driver's license or a Florida ID on record, you cannot do any online.
So if they don't have a stamp, because a lot of people don't have stamps.
Do it online.
They can call too. I called
You can
supervisor
call.
elections and they did
You
it right.
you cannot call to register or change your party's address.
No, it was just to update my.
But that you can do online. You
Yeah,
can't call because they need your signature.
No, I know, it's to update. I have to mail them, right, when you hand in the ballot.
Yeah, you have them together. I'll take them for you today if you want.
There you go.
I'll go to the,
Voter registration and voting at assisted living facilities, how does that work?
how does it work? A lot of
Do they have
times,
polling right there, or?
some of them are polling right there, a lot of them are vote by mail. A lot of the parties make sure they get in there, make sure everybody's signature is okay,
Right.
because they change them, they make a concerted effort. I'm not sure, I'm sure the Republicans do it the same thing the Democrats do. they make a concerted effort to go to the assisted living areas and make sure that the signatures are updated. And they go and collect, a lot of times they'll go and collect them there. So you can collect these ballots, the envelopes, as long as you are not paid to do it. So if you're paid by a political party to do it, you may not. Or you're paid by a politician, you may not do that. But you can collect them and bring them to the supervisor of elections office. You can't help them, you don't have to fill it out. But
When do you get, I forgot, when do you get the ballot in the mail, the actual voting ballot? Is it
for a
30
vote
days?
by usually 30 to 35 days before the election. Plenty of time to look up everyone.
At the voters registration desk, do we staple the vote at home or whatever it is, vote by mail to the?
Clip it together and keep them together, because otherwise, if they have never registered before and here's a vote by mail and they're separated, they're going to go, oh, well, they're not even registered. So I always keep them clipped together.
Okay.
They're very nice in the supervisor of elections office.
When you say clip, you mean a paper clip?
Yeah, paper clip. Yeah, just a simple paper clip and bring them in so they're together.
It is noon.
And we're finished.
That flew by.
I know.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Did I cover? This is the best. Did I cover everything?
I think you covered. First of all, let's give her a giant. Absolutely. Can you, Harriet, since you're here, can you also tell us just very quickly about the League of Women Voters?
Yes.
And what a wonderful organization it is. I joined last week. You should all join.
And we have a bargain price today, a discounted price for anyone who joins the League of Women Voters today. It's $50 as opposed to $60 for the year. Be happy to take your application. And the League is a nonpartisan political organization, and I mean political, because we're 97 years old.
Woo!
I know.
What about gender?
We take men, we love men.
All right.
We always say not for women only. So we do have lots of men who are members, and we like to have our male members. It's a wonderful organization, and even though we're non-partisan, we are very, very political. We fought against the redistricting, and we won.
Yes.
It took years, but we won with common cause. So, and we will be fighting against, we're against voter suppression in any form that it might be in. We are for change of the Electoral College.
Yeah.
But we figured we're really not, and we have been since 1947. So it's not a new, because what the League does is it looks at a problem and it studies it. And then it does a consensus and it makes recommendations. And that stays, and it may take years and years and years before that topic might come up again. But we have it on record what we want. So.
And thank you for sponsoring the solar co-op.
Yes, so co-op, we do lots of good things. We're for gun safety, civics education in the schools, advocacy. We do have an observer corps. We go to meetings. We go to the commissioner meetings and sit there with big observer corps pins. If they see you, they're more likely to listen to you. So, yeah, interesting, right?
The orientation monthly, because I can't make the one on the 28th.
No, it's every few months.
Yeah.
So
There's
if
one
I
in
don't-
February.
In the spring, there'll probably be another one.
Yeah.
If I can't make it on the 28th, just RSVP and let them know, and then they'll let me
We
know.
do.
Yeah.
And we, yeah.
You want to go to the next one?
I want to go, yeah, I can't make the 28th.
Yes, so send out.
So we do have young leaguers, 16 to 45, and they meet separately. And we have a voting rights coalition, and of course, voter registration.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's an
Voter
on-the-job
survey.
training opportunity this Tuesday.
Awesome.
anyone
Send
here-
it if you're interested.
All right.
So if anybody wants to join today, we would love
Yes.
to take your money.